You know when you're watching a movie set in Europe and you notice the trucks just look different? They're kind of flat and boxy. Then you see a classic American road movie, and there it is, that iconic long-nosed rig just eating up the highway. I mean, they're both built to do the same job, but they could not look more different. So let's get into it and figure out exactly why. So on one side, you've got the American conventional cab. It's got that long hood with the engine sitting way out in front of the driver. But on the other side, you have the European cab-over-engine design. We just call it COE, where the driver is literally sitting right on top of the engine. And that one simple difference, that is what changes absolutely everything else about these machines.
Now, you might think this is just a style choice, like picking a different color car, but no way. This is a massive engineering and cultural split. So why did these two branches of the trucking family tree grow so far apart? Well, the answer is this really fascinating mix of laws, landscape, and lifestyle.
All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the rules of the road that literally shape these trucks. Then we'll see how that shape impacts how they actually work. Third, we'll get into the very different lives of the drivers inside them. And finally, we'll talk about the all-important bottom line. Okay, let's start with the single biggest reason for this whole thing: government regulations. It turns out you really can't understand why a truck looks the way it does until you understand the laws it has to follow. So the key difference, the real heart of the matter, is what each government decides to measure. In the US, the law mostly cares about the length of the trailer. The cab, the part the driver's in, can basically be as long as you want. And that freedom is what allows for those big, long-nosed designs. But in Europe, the law regulates the total length of the entire truck, from the front bumper all the way to the back of the trailer. So to get as much cargo space as possible, you have to make the cab as short as you can. And just like that, the flat-nose design isn't a choice, it's a legal necessity. Okay, so once you've got those legal rules set in stone, you can start to see how form follows function. Engineers on both continents started with different rulebooks, and that led them to build totally different trucks, designed for completely different worlds.
So first up, we've got the European standard, the cab-over-engine. By tucking that engine right underneath the cab, you end up with this really compact, agile workhorse.
And the thing about the COE design is it's just a perfect match for its environment. I mean, think about it. European cities have these streets that could be hundreds, sometimes even thousands of years old. They're narrow, they're winding, they're tight. A COE's amazing turning radius isn't just a nice feature, it's absolutely essential to get anywhere or make a delivery. It's a design that was truly born out of necessity. Now let's hop back across the pond to the American conventional cab. With pretty much no rules on how long it can be, it can afford to have that iconic long nose pushing the engine way out front.
And this design, it's just tailor-made for the American landscape. For one, that huge hood acts as a massive crumple zone in an accident, which adds a lot of safety. Mechanics also love it because you just pop the hood open for really easy access to the engine. And for a country that's defined by these long, straight interstate highways, that sloping nose is way more aerodynamic. It just cuts through the air better, which makes for a more stable, comfortable, and fuel-efficient ride over thousands of miles.
And that brings us to our third section, where we shift focus from the machine itself to the person sitting behind the wheel, because the way a truck's cab is designed has a huge impact on the life of its driver.
I absolutely love this quote because it just gets right to the point. This one sentence really explains almost everything about the differences you find inside the cab. It's a fundamental split in the whole culture of trucking.
You see, American truckers often drive these incredibly long-haul routes, and they can be on the road for weeks, sometimes even months at a time. Their truck isn't just a vehicle, it really is their second home. And that spaciousness that the conventional design allows for, that's what makes this whole lifestyle possible.
So what does that lifestyle actually look like in practice? Well, let's take a classic American truck, the Freightliner Cascadia. We're talking about enormous sleeper cabs that you can fully stand up in. You can get something called a driver's lounge package that has a Murphy bed that folds away to reveal a little table and seats. There's dedicated space for a microwave, a fridge. I mean, it is quite literally a home on wheels.
Now compare that to the European setup. It's a completely different world. European routes are usually much shorter. Drivers are more likely to be doing regional runs and then heading home way more often. So their cabs are designed to be super efficient, ergonomic workspaces. Sure, they have sleeper areas, but they really prioritize function over the kind of sprawling comfort you see in the American trucks.
All right, and for our final section, let's talk about the economics. Because at the end of the day, trucking is a business, right? And every single design choice is shaped by things like the cost of fuel, maintenance, and the truck itself.
And you can really see the economic pressure from high fuel prices when you look at the MPG numbers. A standard American truck might get around 6.5 miles per gallon, while the super optimized ones can push that to 9.5. But then look at Europe. Their best trucks can top 10.5 MPG. And that makes sense, because fuel prices in Europe are so much higher. Every single drop of fuel counts, and that pressure forces them to be laser-focused on efficiency.
Let's just put them head to head for a second. What's kind of surprising here is the horsepower. European trucks, like the Mercedes-Benz Actros, can actually be more powerful than their American counterparts. And yet, they still manage to get better fuel economy and often cost less to buy in the first place. It's really a masterclass in efficient engineering, and it's all driven by those tight regulations and high costs we've been talking about.
So we've seen how laws, geography, and culture created these two completely separate species of truck. But as we start looking to the future with things like electric powertrains and self-driving tech that can erase old engineering problems, you really have to wonder, will these two worlds finally start to merge? Or will the unique needs of each continent mean that for the foreseeable future, we'll always have two trucks living in two very different worlds?